Monday to Sunday.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
All day. All year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are. WADR.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. This is Newslink. Here are the top stories. Deadly terrorist attacks claims lives of 34 Burkinabe armies as they return from operation neutralizing 40 armed men. President Madabio sworn in office merely an hour after being pronounced winner of the 2023 general elections in Sierra Leone.
I, Julius Madabio, do hereby in the name of God swear that I will at all times wear and truly discharge the duties of the office of the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone according to law.
Mali's constitutional referendum sparks controversy as discontent erupts over provisional result. And EU election observer mission identifies 6 crucial areas for electoral reforms in Nigeria after 2023 general elections.
Nigeria has signed up to key regional and international commitments for democratic election. While we consider the electoral legal framework provides an adequate foundation for the conduct of democratic elections, there are ambiguities in the law.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin the bulletin in Burkina Faso, where terrorist attacks claimed the lives of at least 34 soldiers who were returning from a mission. According to a statement from the Armed Forces General Staff issued on Tuesday, the army also successfully neutralized 40 terrorists. It also states that the attack targeted a supply convoy that was accompanied by military units returning from the capital of Soum Province, Djibo. The Burkina Faso army described the fighting as exceptionally intense, resulting in significant casualties despite the unit's vigorous counterattack. The army mentioned that reinforcement teams have been deployed to continue search and response operations, as around 10 soldiers are still missing. It is worth noting that this large-scale attack took place during a period of relative calm in several parts of the country. Over the past few months, the National Armed Forces have been conducting operations to regain control over the national territory. Now, following a closely contested general election, President Julius Madabio has been swiftly inaugurated into office merely an hour after being declared the winner. Contending with his primary rival, Samura Kamara of the main opposition All People's Congress (APC), President Bio secured a resounding victory with a total of 1,566,932 votes, amounting to 56%. This mandate, the Electoral Commission said, allows him to serve a second term as president, extending his tenure by another 5 years. WADR's Patrick Salia brings us further details from Freetown.
I, Julius Madabio, do hereby in the name of God swear that I will at all times wear and truly discharge the duties of the office of the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone according to law.
He prioritizes agriculture and a continuation of his flagship human capital development. His first inning has been characterized by economic and social problems, with inflation at a record high of about 27%. Out of the estimated 3.3 million registered voters in the polls on Saturday, 24th June, the Chief Electoral Commissioner Mohamed Kone said only 2,800,691, which represents 83% of all the votes from all the 11,712 polling stations across the country, but there were 10,883 invalid votes.
Kamara Samura Matthew Winston, All People's Congress,
1,148,262, representing 41.16%. Therefore, by the powers vested in me as the National Returning Officer, I hereby certify Bio Julius Mada having pooled 1,566,932 of the valid vote cast, representing 56.17% of the total valid vote cast duly elected.
He challenged anyone who feels dissatisfied with the results to utilize the judicial system. For many Sierra Leoneans, it should not be a win just for the Bio Sierra Leone People's Party (SLPP). While the SLPP supporters, after the announcement of the presidential election results, took charge of what were earlier empty streets, the party office of the main opposition All People's Congress (APC) remained a deserted zone with armed state security personnel fully in charge of the surrounding. Standing on a railway line where the main opposition All People's Congress Party headquarters is situated, 3 barricades have been erected by the security forces, manned by the military and police jointly. According to the commander here, who decided not to speak on record, it is one for the safety and security of the party's office here and the security of people in the surrounding, this Brookfields community precisely. Patrick Salia, WADR News, Freetown.
Meanwhile, the main opposition figure, Dr. Samura Kamara, has denounced the credibility of the 2023 general election result. Dr. Kamara categorically rejects the outcome announced by the Electoral Commission and considers it to be a grave assault on the country's nascent democracy. Expressing deep sadness, he views the declaration of the election result as a dark day for his beloved nation. However, Kamara acknowledges and appreciates the support of both local and international partners who championed transparency and democracy throughout the electoral process. He vows to overcome what he describes as perceived injustice and remains committed to fighting for a better Sierra Leone.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Mali, the release of provisional results of the constitutional referendum has triggered dissent as some individuals contest the outcome. The United Front Against the Referendum issued a press release highlighting irregularities and expressing its intention to pursue legal action, urging the Constitutional Court to invalidate the result. However, regional and international bodies recognize the significance of the referendum as a crucial milestone in the journey towards restoring civilian governance by March 2024. Marty C. with more details in this report by Bamako correspondent Ramatu Aidara.
As the Constitutional Court prepares to announce the final result of the constitutional referendum, there are growing voices contesting the provisional figures that were announced by the Independent Election Management Authority last week. The United Front Against the Referendum, which has consistently opposed the process from the beginning, has raised concerns over irregularities and fraudulent acts. Sheriff Kone, a member of the United Front Against the Referendum, has denounced the provisional result and highlighted the alleged irregularities.
These results, insufficient to legitimize the referendum, are the product of planned fraud. That's why we reject them, because the military voted twice without any electoral roll or tally sheet. The results were communicated to the Centralization Commission without being accompanied by a report.
Since the announcement of the results, neither the transitional president nor any member of the Malian government has publicly commented on the conduct of the vote. Le Front Uni contre le Référendum, United Front Against the Referendum, has taken legal action to demand the annulment of the provisional result of the referendum.
We have appealed to the Constitutional Court to annul these results and, above all, to invalidate the referendum as a whole on the grounds that it did not involve all parts of the country.
It is important to note that the current constitution stipulates that a constitutional referendum is only considered valid if it is conducted throughout the entire country.
Marty C. voiced that report by Ramatu Aidara from Bamako. Now, the European Union Election Observer Mission to Nigeria has highlighted 6 key areas that require improvement in the country's electoral process following the 2023 general elections. Mr. Barry Andrews, the chief observer of the mission, shared these findings during a presentation in Abuja on Tuesday. The recommendations put forth by the mission were based on the observations during the general elections held on February 25, March 18, and April 15. Abuja correspondent Usman Umar tells us more.
The mission has identified several key areas of concern, including ambiguities in the law, the establishment of a transparent process for selecting members of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), the need for real-time publication and access to election results, and the protection of media practitioners. It has also criticized the discrimination against women in elected and appointed positions, as well as the lack of accountability for electoral offenses.
Nigeria has signed up to key regional and international commitments for democratic election. While we consider the electoral legal framework provides an adequate foundation for the conduct of democratic elections, there are ambiguities in the law. For example, the Electoral Act 2022, which had its first test in a general election in 2023, and other legal instruments evidenced gaps in terms of transparency, accountability, and inclusivity, and left room for uncertain implementation.
He also stressed the importance of political will to achieve improved democratic practices in Nigeria, calling for an inclusive dialogue among all stakeholders on electoral reform. Speaking on behalf of INEC on the sidelines of the presentation by EU Mission, Festus Okoye, who is the chairman Voter Education and Information Committee of the Commission, admitted that there were glitches, but also said the Election Petition Tribunal is in best position to judge the performance of the Commission.
5 of the political parties nominated and got accredited over 170,000 polling agents. So what that means is that they had primary evidence of the results from the polling unit. And it is those results from the polling units, together with the beavers as a machine itself, that goes to the collation center. So it is not true and it cannot be correct.
In a related development, the EU Observer Mission presented its final report on the 2023 general elections to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The delegation of election observers was received by Mahmoud Yakubu, the chairman of INEC, along with national commissioners of the electoral body. During their visit to the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, on behalf of Nigeria, sought the support of the European Union in the country's efforts to deepen and consolidate its democratic practices regarding electoral processes. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
After undergoing close examination for almost 4 years, the Liberian legislature has reached a consensus to enact the Controlled Drug and Substances Act of 2014 into law. This move effectively renders drug-related offences non-bailable. The legislation had been awaiting approval in committee rooms for an extended period, during which the country experienced a significant influx of illegal drugs from both local and international traffickers, posing a serious threat to Liberia's future. WADR's Darlington Pauper in Monrovia reports.
This passage describes a conference committee report established by the legislature to reconcile amendments from both the House of Representatives and the Liberian Senate. Thomas Goshua, the lead advocate for the law, addressing his fellow lawmakers, emphasizing the urgency of concurring with the joint Senate and House Conference Committee report due to the detrimental impact of drug addiction on the country's future generation.
It is estimated that around 250,000 of our citizens are addicted to drugs across the country. And because of that is worrisome, there is practically no home in Liberia now that is not being affected by the use and abuse of narcotic substances. Whether you are a representative, a senator, whoever you be, every home has some effect of drug abuse in this country now.
However, despite his plea, some lawmakers argue for drug-related offenses to be categorized into non-bailable and bailable offenses based on the severity of the crime program.
Colleagues, this is a serious issue here.
It is no secret that our children, our family members, our loved ones are all vulnerable in the street. We cannot overemphasize the importance of this bill.
I'd like for us to consider those who are consumers as victims, but I'd like for us to do it cautiously. For those who produce narcotic substance in that category, such a person caught should not be paid.
After extensive deliberation, a crucial motion was made by Samson Ware, the representative of Sando County, to designate drug-related offenses as non-bailable.
Realizing that this law is coming at the right time and there should be a need to have it compartmentalized. Honorable Speaker, co-presiding distinguished colleagues, I move, if I can be seconded, that this plenary concur with the Senate and that this law be effectuated by passage.
With the document now sent to President George Weah for his signature, many are hopeful that the Liberian leader will sign it into law. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
It's 15 minutes past the hour 12. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Deadly terrorist attack claims lives of 34 Burkinabe army as they return from operation, neutralizing 40 armed men. President Bio sworn into office merely an hour after being pronounced winner of the 2023 general elections in Sierra Leone. Mali's constitutional referendum sparks controversy as discontent erupts over provisional results, and EU election observer mission identifies 6 crucial areas for electoral reform in Nigeria after 2023 general elections. Still ahead is the guest interview and sports news. Stay tuned.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Over the past 10 days, Ghana has experienced devastating floods in the Ashanti region, resulting in the tragic loss of 8 lives, including a National Disaster Management Organization NADMO officer. As is customary during the months of June and July, heavy rainfall has struck various areas within the Ashanti region, southern part of the country, causing road closures, bridge collapses, displacement of households, and leaving behind a trail of casualties. WADR's Atiwin Imbilalosin in Accra with in-depth report.
The National Disaster Management Organization NADMO has issued a vital advisory urging people to avoid crossing floodwaters in their attempt to reach their destinations. This warning comes in response to the unfortunate discovery of 7 out of 8 bodies recovered from floodwaters in various towns within the Ashanti region. Among the victims is a 6-year-old boy who was playing with his friends in the rain when the incident occurred. Frank Dodu, the Ashanti Regional Director of NADMO, has provided further information on the events that led to the deaths of these 8 individuals.
A man is suspected to be drunk, and one of them decided he wouldn't go, but the other said he will walk through. So he slipped off in a gutter and he was washed away. And on the Friday at Tatafua, we don't know what is happening. This time round again, a pickup who was crossing the stream, 2 guys jumped into the bucket, seeking for an assistant to cross. When they get to the midway, they got to know that the river was washing away the pickup, and they jumped and they were also carried away. We found one of the body, one is yet to be found.
Intensive efforts are currently underway to locate the remaining victim who has yet to be found. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
More than 100,000 children who have been forced to flee the conflict in Sudan are now facing a series of new dangers and find themselves in a desperate situation in Chad, as stated by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, in a recent statement released on Monday. Highlighting the gravity of the situation, Jacques Boyer, the representative of UNICEF in Chad, emphasizes the horrors experienced by these children and their families in Sudan are quickly evolving into a serious crisis within the borders of the country. Oge Obierika completes the story.
Ricardo Perez, the media officer and spokesperson for the agencies at UNICEF New York, has confirmed the death situation, emphasizing that children are facing new dangers as they arrive. He explains that the children are often traumatized, hungry, exhausted, and sometimes even ill. UNICEF, he said, is actively working to address these challenges by providing drinking water, promoting sanitation and hygiene practices to prevent waterborne diseases. The UN representative said they are also establishing child-friendly spaces to offer psychosocial support and facilitate the reunification of separated children with their families. Ricardo assures that UNICEF is engaged in working with local communities to raise awareness about the ongoing situation in Sudan. He also highlights that the organization is facing significant limitations in terms of resources and means to support the large number of arriving families and children. According to him, as of June 23, 2023, over 140,000 refugees and 34,000 Chadian returnees have crossed the border, with more than 90% of them being women and children. In an audio message, General Hemeti, who has been engaged in conflict with the Sudanese armed forces since mid-April, declared a 2-day truce to observe the Muslim feast of Eid el-Kabir, which is celebrated on Wednesday in several countries around the world.
Oge Obiarika reporting there.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Barely 24 hours after his declaration as the winner of the 2023 general elections in Sierra Leone, President Julius Maada Bio has immediately been sworn into office. According to the Electoral Commission's result, he beat 12 other presidential candidates, including his main contender, Samura Kamara of the main opposition All People's Congress, APC, by 1,566,932 votes, amounting to 56%. Legitimizing him re-elected president for his second term in office for another 5 years. However, shortly after the ceremony, APC's Samura Kamara, on his official Twitter account, denounced the credibility of the result, vowing to overcome what he describes as perceived injustice and remains committed to fighting for a better Sierra Leone. Our guest, Dr. Ibrahim Akan, joins us now to evaluate the implications and reasons behind the swift swearing-in ceremony.
Well, it's really surprising because normally in this kind of situation, before an official swearing in, the Electoral Commission has to make sure that there is no legal action taken against the result. And because this is about electoral results, and since yesterday, the opposition leader was saying that the results that were published were not the real result, and so on. So I believe that he has arguments that support his statements. So the judicial system is there to really make sure that all the evidence are presented to it, and they make a final decision about the election. But the fact that they are very quickly starting swearing in the president even create a kind of suspicion about the results.
Right. So like you even mentioned that the Electoral Commission would have to wait for if there is any legal challenge to the results that they have released. But this hasn't been done, and he's already sworn into office. So what implications does this have on the country?
It has many implications. Just see, for example, if Kamara collect the maximum of information that allow the judiciary to really announce that some of the results were fake, some of the results were not a good result. How do we do now? How do we make sure? Because that means that the president was not duly elected. Just to compare the way the process that you described with the process in a country like Kenya. If you recall, Kenya faced the same system in the past. I remember in 2008 when that election that led to a big crisis in the country is just in the evening, the results were pronounced that Kibaki sworn in the country. And since then in Kenya, first the Electoral Commission declare the results, give a kind of quitus to the president, the person who is supposed to have won the election, and the opposition have 5 days to really prepare its case and send them to the High Court of Kenya or the Supreme Court of Kenya, and the Supreme Court of Kenya is the one that makes the final decision about the result. If you recall this time, Raila filed a case, and because the judicial said there was no case, they decided to declare Ruto the winner. Why?
Right. Like you have cited some examples, even using Kenya and some other African countries about this swearing in. Why do you think we are experiencing this kind of issues in Africa?
Well, I think it's the way our political system works. And when you remember, even before the election in Sierra Leone, there was a lot of suspicion about the Electoral Commission. There were even demonstrations in front of the office of the Electoral Commission to say that what the Electoral Commission was doing was not transparent and everything. But now that we see this kind of rush, this kind of procedure, now it creates the sentiment that something is wrong in this whole proceedings. But at the same time, we still need to wait for what ECOWAS, what the Commonwealth will be saying, because they know the normal procedure, the principle that should govern this kind of situation. Maybe they will come back and say if it is the good way of doing thing or not, because I think something is really, really wrong in this procedure. Rushing is never a good solution.
Dr. Ibrahim Akan is a governance expert. Here is Sankule Janko with sports news.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Cote d'Ivoire International, Wilfried Zaha and rapper Stormzy have agreed a deal to buy non-league club AFC Credon. According to media reports, the Ivorian winger and Stormy are reportedly part of a 3-man consortium alongside former Palace head of player care Danny Young. The former Manchester United forward Zaha and rapper both grew up at the home of Credon in South London. AFC Credon are competing in the 9th tier of English football. An official statement issued by the club states the consortium will own, operate and develop their childhood hometown football club. Although born in Cote d'Ivoire, the 30-year-old Zaha is heavily involved in community projects and also runs the WZ Academy. It has been reported he began his career at Crystal Palace before having spells in Manchester United, Cardiff and back to Palace. Zaha was born in Cote d'Ivoire, but having moved and spent his childhood in England, the tricky winger represented the Three Lions and won 2 caps for England. However, he switched allegiance to the country of his birth and won 31 caps for Cote d'Ivoire. And in basketball, Egypt have won Arab Under-16 Championship, beating Tunisia 80-34 in the final game. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM and in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lofa County. In Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Inyas Bilimo has been on the console, and Mustafa Sek has been streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Do interact with us via social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Tofik Abdulnasir. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music. Get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.